Growing up, I learned pretty quickly that there are basically two kinds of people in the world. There are those people who are really good at math. And then there are those people who are really not. And I happen to fall in that latter category. So all during high school, I wanted to perform well in my classes, but because I struggled with math, my parents gave me this great gift. I struggled with algebra, calculus, trigonometry, all these classes. And so they hired a tutor, a math tutor for me. And as it turns out, this math tutor was excellent because this tutor helped me perform well in these classes. But he had to work with me a lot. And so all during high school, we met sometimes every single week so that I could do well in these classes. And so when you meet with someone regularly, over time, you become friends. And so this tutor, this math tutor, also became a good friend, and we're still friends to this day. And I will never forget one Christmas when he was a wise guy, he played this clever trick on me. He decided to give me for Christmas 3 presents. So count with me. 1, 2, and 3. Now, you remember that game show, Let's Make a Deal? Behind door number 1, or door number 2, or door number 3. Well, he says to me, okay, I'm going to give to you 3 presents, and you get to keep 2 out of the 3. You can't keep all 3. You only get 2. And the trick is you've got to choose the 2 that you want to keep before unwrapping them. He said you can pick them up, you can fill them, you can shake them, you can do whatever you want, but you have to choose the 2 out of 3 gifts that you will keep before you unwrap them. Okay? Well, I'm up for a game, so I said, sure, let's go for it. So I picked up the first gift, and I felt it. I shook it, and I'm a pretty clever person myself, and so I said to myself, okay, he's my math tutor. This feels like pencils. So that's what this is, pencils, a pack of pencils. And then I picked up the second wrapped present, and I shook it. I could feel some buttons, and I felt around, and he is a math tutor, so I thought, definitely a calculator. Now, for the younger people in the room, you don't even know what a calculator is. It's an antiquated gadget now because of smartphones, but back in the day, this is a real gem of a thing to have, especially in a math class. So I was convinced that that's what this was. And then there was a third gift. It felt a little different, but come on, it was Christmas season, and I began to squeeze it, and it felt like inside that this was probably a store-bought fruitcake. And by the way, I hate fruitcake. So I'm thinking to myself, yuck. So I only get to keep 2, and I said, I'll definitely keep the first 2 packages. And he said, great, they're yours. Why don't you go ahead and open them? And so I did. I wrapped this so well, I'm not going to be able to get it unwrapped. I unwrapped the first gift. I didn't practice this at home. And sure enough, that's what was inside. Some pencils, a pack of pencils. I was right. Ding, ding, ding. Yay, me. The second gift, I opened it. And again, ding, 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 I was right. It was not a smartphone. It was a calculator. So these were the 2 gifts from my math tutor and friend that I got to keep. And I said to him, thank you so much. I'm a practical kind of person. These will come in handy all year long. And when I use them, I will think of you. I was always a gracious person. And he said, well, that's very kind. Why don't you open the third gift? And I said, no, thank you. I could tell he was a little bummed. And he said, oh, come on, open it. I said, well, I'm not going to get to keep it, so why should I open it? I don't want to know what's inside. He's like, go ahead. Open it. So I did. And I could tell right away. You can see for yourself. Store-bought fruit cake. And then I noticed something. Underneath the fruit cake, there was a bank envelope. You can imagine, my math tutor said, go ahead, open it. Inside, there was a stack of $100 bills. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, dang it. But you know, now's a good time to bring up again that Christmas Eve offering. I cannot, with integrity, share this story and keep this money. So, I'm noticing tonight we've got a pretty good turnout. If everyone here would match my offering, my Christmas Eve offering, we could take care of our HVAC problem, as well as care for those in need in our community. Isn't it true that the greatest gifts often break through where we least expect? I know it's been true in my own life that God's grace often comes by surprise. It catches us unaware. Isn't that true for that first Christmas? If you think about it, long ago, how God was able to break through into this dark and broken world. It was a dark time in history, where the world was being dominated by the greedy and by the cruel, and some ordinary people by the name of Mary, a common name for women, and Joseph. Mary was a young woman, peasant woman, and she's not even married yet to this man named Joseph. And their conception was suspicious, to say the least. I mean, people are giving a side glance going, I'm not so sure. And like very ordinary people, they're having to make their way to pay a tax. And when they get to the city, it's so crowded, there's no place, there's no room for them to even deliver. There's no room for Mary to deliver her child. So they wind up in a stable. And if you don't know what a stable is, it's a barn. And that's where they keep animals, livestock animals. And they're tromping around, and they probably got smelly, wet hay against the wall. And I'm sure the aroma of that first Christmas, if you could conjure it up right now, it would remind you that in this world, manure happens. In the unlikeliest, least expected place, God broke through, and God entered our humanity, and God entered into the world in the form of an infant, a newborn baby. And that's so powerless. How much more powerless can you be? And here's the thing about sacred language is it's not an either or, it's a both and. And so just as that is a powerless symbol for us, it's also very powerful. One of the reasons, or the reason, that God is so powerful is because of this. Now, this is basic Christianity 101. God is so powerful because here's a formula for you. I want you to remember it. God equals love. Now, that's the only thing I remember from math, quite frankly. Is means equal. God equals love. That's the true nature of who God is. God is love. And if we say we believe this, we preach on it, we sing about it, but most of us, even and especially in the church, we say that we believe God is love, but then we hold on. We hold on to a God that's judgmental, that takes sides, that is always wanting us to measure up, that wants us to get our acts together and straighten up right now. This is the God that some of you parents are holding on to right now. You know, sometimes books find us. I don't know if that's ever happened to you. I didn't go looking for this book. It found me about a month ago, and I can't put it down. I can't finish it either because every time I read something, it's so profound that I just have to think about it. But in this book, it's called The Whole Language of God, The Power of Extravagant Tenderness, and it's written by a priest named Gregory Boyle. And in this book, he says, nothing is more consequential for our lives than the notion of God that we hold. Now, if you're not paying attention right now, this is a good time to come back to me. Nothing is more consequential for our lives than the notion of God that we hold. Not God, but the notion of God. This is what, he says, this is what steers the ship. Now, here's what I mean by this. The kind of God that you and I believe in, whatever that is, that's what's going to steer your life and in mine. Meister Eckhart, 13th century German theologian, said it this way. It is a lie. It is a lie, any talk of God that does not comfort you. Now, that was his notion, but what's your notion and my notion of God? What kind of God do you believe in? Do you believe in a remote kind of God that has this big white beard that is keeping up with who's been naughty or nice? Wrong God. Do you believe in a kind of God that makes you feel unworthy, in debt, unwanted, ashamed, or like you are some kind of huge mistake? Wrong God. Do you believe in a kind of God who will judge you, punish you, intimidate you, or frighten you? Wrong God. Some of you know that we're televised every Sunday, delayed a week, on WXXV, 10 a.m. If you watch us, thank you for doing so. And because we're on TV, sometimes when I'm out in public, people will recognize me. I mean, you just can't imagine how often this happens, especially when I'm at Walmart. And maybe I'm in the checkout line and I've got a 6-pack in tow of some, let's say, non-alcoholic beverage. And someone will look at me that, I recognize you. Where do I know you from? And I'm just slinking, you know. I just want to get out of here. And then I remember, oh, yeah. Claire, it's important that you see the sacred worth in everyone. So I'll straighten up and I'll make eye contact with that person and say, you might know me, you know, I'm a United Methodist minister. I serve a church in downtown Gulfport, and we're on TV. And we come on WXXV at 10 a.m. every Sunday. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know you. That's where I've seen you. And I'll say, well, thank you so much for watching us. And he's like, oh, I don't watch you. It's the commercial. Thanks. Now that we've broken the ice, I'll get to know them and ask about them. And then I'll say something like, do you belong to a church? Do you have a church family? Many times they don't, and so I'll get brave and I'll say, well, come check us out. You know, our building is right across from City Hall. We're just a few blocks away from the beach, and it's a little intimidating, that building, because it's historic and older, but the people are really down to earth. And there's no dress code. Just come as you are. Just come and check us out in person sometime. And often this is the response I will get. Who, me? And I'll look at them and I'll say, yeah, you. Why not? And they'll say something like, I wouldn't step foot in a church. After all I've done, God would strike me down. Wrong God. God doesn't strike anybody down. And you know something I want us to drop, by the way? Let's please drop this slogan that has no gospel weight, and it goes like this. Love the sinner, hate the sin. Would church people please quit saying that? Because that's about moralism. that tends to celebrate a God who's checking to see if we've been good or bad. And we worship a God who equals love. And I'm not saying that we don't make our mistakes or we don't have a proclivity to miss the mark. But what I am saying is that God's love for us is like an unconditionally loving parent holding that newborn child. God can't get God's eyes off you. You are precious. According to God, you are mine. God is love. St. Teresa long ago said, "Behold the one beholding you and smiling." Getting towards the end here, so hang with me. I mentioned Gregory Boyle and his writing, but he's so much more than a writer. He's a community builder. He's a builder of God's kingdom. Even the world recognized his good work once. In 2014, the White House named him a champion of change because over 30 years ago, right in the middle of Los Angeles, he started a ministry. It's called Homeboy Industries. And the whole goal of this ministry is to take men and women who are part of gangs, horrifying, dangerous gangs, and over time, through a process he calls therapeutic mysticism, he's able to successfully get some of them off the streets. And what he does is he insists on honoring the sacred worth of everyone who comes his way. He gets to know these people, and he loves them, and he believes in them despite their egregious past or what they might do in the future. And he reminds them that you're not originally sinful, you're originally good. And he believes in everyone's unshakable goodness. And because he sees these people as God sees them, it leads to their transformation. Now, it's a process, and it's messy. And the transformation doesn't happen in spades, nor does it happen overnight. But bit by bit, over time, transformation happens. And one by one, these men and women begin to trust their soul's worth. Last story. On a Christmas day, Father Gregory went to visit one of the homies. He calls these men and women homies. And he went to visit a young man in the hospital. And the man went by the name of Duke. And Duke was all alone in a hospital room, and he was recovering from a gunshot wound. He had been shot the day before on Christmas Eve night. And as Father Gregory starts to walk in his hospital room, he perks up and he says, "Hey, G," because that's what they call him. "Hey, G, what did you bring me for Christmas?" And Father G said, "Not a DAMN thing." I spelled it out for the children in the room. But God has given you a gift. What's that? Your life. Oh, yeah. And they continued to go back and forth as they visited with one another. And then Duke said to this priest, he said, "Gee, why did you come tonight? Who are you here to visit? What church members have you come to check on today?" And the father said, "I came to visit you, you goofball, you knucklehead." And this time, with a tear running down his cheek, Duke said, "No way." "Who, me?" Yeah, you. Another noteworthy spiritual writer goes by the name of Mirabai Starr. She says it this way: once you know the God of love, then you fire all the other gods. On this sacred Christmas Eve night, I want to invite all of you gathered here to fire all those other gods. I want you to get rid of them, steer clear of any God that doesn't bring you these 3 gifts. And here they are. You ready? Comfort, joy, and peace. Because God equals love. And that's the formula. That's the notion to remember. What on earth? Tell me. What on earth could be more powerful? So be it, and so it is. Amen.